I'm going to read from day 2 little bits. Gill has introduced it. Most of my work has very little plot. Obviously, World War II. All of the plot of the other books is in this one. Which makes it difficult to read out from. So just read 2 little bits. One bit, Alfred is in a pub, in a public house with some of his crew. There's Malloy, who's Irish, and there's another, Pluckrose is with them, and they're having a chat. And then he walks over and he speaks to some other people who are further down the line in being in the RAF than him. This is sort of to demonstrate the RAF sense of humour, which was a little dark. But then they were in slightly dark times. So, and they call the pub the Duck's Head. Whatever pub, because they're in so many pubs that they just call everything the Duck's Head. Always in the Duck's Head. The crew, at least Pluckrose, has decided whichever pub they chose to be their own would always be the Duck's Head. The Duck's Head Boston, the Duck's Head Piccadilly, this way, we'll always know just where we are. Yes. Malloy nodded as if this was maths or philosophy. We'll always know we're in the Duck's Head. Good man yourself. He surveyed their 4th or 5th pub of that name with proprietorial admiration. Better than a bottle party. You never know where you are with them. Fast girls, hotter than incendiaries, more harmful. Thank you for sparing me that trouble, my good old pal. The least I could do. And remember, a bird in the Strand isn't worth 2 in Shepherd's Bush. It's very old. It's almost as old as Gill, that joke. It's much older. They gave each other the sign for victory with some inaccuracy. As they did, Alfred stretched up to meet the idea of himself standing, which seemed a little slower than it had been at 7 this evening. I'll get the same. The faces crammed at the table nodded to him, and he wound off through the muddle of civilians, a couple of army jobs over by themselves, and blue and blue and blue. Old blue. Men who'd finished with the preparation, who'd fired at drogues, who'd done their fighter affiliation, their cross-country exercises, who'd flown out with other crews, old hands, to learn the ropes. Maybe had that childish fluster at the thought of separation. Men who were on ops now, already doing the job. They were doing it, weren't still waiting, weren't unsure. Alfred and his crew were almost there, but almost there was nowhere. Surprised myself. How'd you do that then? A pair of sergeants leaning into each other at the bar, hands slapping down slowly on a thin puddle of beer across the counter, palm over palm as they spoke, peering close at each other's faces. Oxygen mask fell out of the hatch at 20,000 feet. So, was wearing it at the time. They didn't laugh, only ground on, hands dipping and then rising off the bar top. 4 won't hurt you, have my guarantee. Air's the softiest, bounciest stuff you'll meet. And it's very thin, that high. That's right. The brown-haired sergeant rubbing at the black-haired sergeant's neck, nodding and rubbing as if he couldn't stop. Just don't land. That's right. That's the only part that hurts. So don't you try it. That's right. And unless you got to shoot, of course, got to shoot. Unless it doesn't work, you take it back and complain. Oh, there we go. They're all leaving upstairs. What have we done?
Did she say something about my age?
No.
Well, I was not listening. She's really mean, you know.
No.
Yeah. So we have a score to settle.
Okay.
Should we score this?
Yeah, let's
settle the score.
Let's score the settle.
Yeah, Robin Rom.
Oh yeah.
Is Robin Rom here?
Hello.
Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Robin wrote a review of this wonderful book, What Becomes,
more a kind of rhapsody,
which is a kind of dream review in all its praise. But she did say that whatever A.L. Kennedy touches turns to art. Yeah. And I was curious if there were any ramifications from that. that Robin should know about?
Yeah, my mother, who is in many ways lovely, but she doesn't take all of this seriously, and you know, it's probably not to be taken seriously usually. Take the art seriously, yourself doing it, no, because that's bad for your brain. But yeah, she read that review. I was reading it to her because it was so good, and it was making me giggle. And now she follows me around the kitchen with like jars of jelly or marmalade or whatever, and goes, "Go on, touch that, turn it to art, go on." When she thinks that I've forgotten, she goes, "Touch that dog."
When you meet her mother, Midge, you realize where she comes from. You know, my wife and I and a friend of ours, Jennifer Saunders, were visiting Midge and Alison in Bidford on Avon. And we were going to spend the night because Midge's house is small, you know, at Betty, the vicar's widow's house, right? And Betty is also a fine teller of tales. But Midge said, "You know, Gill, be very careful of your language around Midge because she is the vicar's widow." And I said, "Could you give me an example?" And she said, "Well, yesterday morning she said to me, 'Midge, you know, recently I've been having trouble with the old C.' And I said, 'C as in what?' And she said, 'Constipation.'" So there are these moments, you know, you're way in over your head, you know.
That's true. But you have to bear in mind, my mother, I was conceived in Australia, land of sunshine and happiness. So they immediately came back to the northeast of Scotland, which isn't where they're from either. So there's no reason for it at all. There's no justification. And I was very big for Dundee because Dundonian people are tiny because they have no sunlight or vegetables. It's true. On average, they are. You know, I was not being metaphorical in these are small people. They're small. They're tiny. I am huge for Dundee, but.